Monday, April 24th, 2017. An 18-year-old Coast Guard watchstander picks up a crackling Mayday call. 1,500 miles east of Long Island, deep in the Atlantic, a frantic voice pleaded for help. An explosion had ripped through their ship, sparking a fire. One crewman was dead. Others were burning alive. No help, no backup, no time. The Coast Guard couldn't reach them. Helicopters didn't have the range. Rescue ships were days away. In the middle of nowhere, there was only one unit that could answer the call. The United States Air Force's 106th Rescue Wing. 5 Air Force Pararescue Jumpers and 2 combat rescue officers packed their gear, loaded Zodiac boats, and boarded an HC-130. Their mission? Parachute into darkness, fight 20-foot waves, and climb aboard a crippled, burning ship. And somehow, keep 2 dying men alive. No guarantee they'd survive the jump. No guarantee they'd reach the ship. And no guarantee they'd make it home. They jumped anyway. So others may live. On April 20th, 2017, the motor vessel Tamar, a 623-foot bulk carrier, steamed out of Baltimore, Maryland, riding low under the weight of 55,000 tons of West Virginia coal. Her destination? India. Her course would carry her across the Atlantic and through the Strait of Gibraltar. For 4 days, the voyage was smooth, almost routine. But on April 24th, roughly 1,500 miles east of Long Island, deep in the Atlantic, Mr. Murphy came knocking, and he brought the full force of his law with him. The ship's bosun sent 4 of his deckhands forward to grab some line. As the first man flipped on the lights in the forward storeroom, the Tamar's bow exploded in a violent blast. Methane gas, released from the coal in the number 1 hold, had leaked into the forward spaces, and a single spark was all it took to ignite it. 1 man was killed instantly. 3 others were left clinging to life. Smoke poured from the shattered bow, but the crew fought the fire and won. With her engine still running, the battered Tamar turned west, limping toward the Azores.
Mayday, 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 mayday.
Vessel in distress. What is your position and nature of distress, over?
Shortly before 7 a.m. on April 24th, the captain of the Tamar sent a mayday. The coal carrier was deep in the Atlantic, still making way but critically wounded. 1 crewman was dead. 3 others were burned over 50% of their bodies and slipping fast. The Coast Guard's 1st District Rescue Coordination Center in Boston scrambled. A Canadian Coast Guard cutter was available, but it was hours away and had limited medical equipment, not enough to help. The only real hope was the 106th Rescue Wing of the New York Air National Guard. There was one problem. The 106th couldn't be officially tasked. This was a civilian search and rescue case, outside their mandate. But these were PJs, elite operators trained to rescue downed pilots and special operators behind enemy lines. And when the call came, every one of them volunteered without hesitation. On the afternoon of April 24th, an HC-130 King lifted off from West Hampton Beach, New York, carrying 2 combat rescue officers, 5 pararescue jumpers from the 103rd Rescue Squadron, 8 aircrew, and 2 maintenance techs. Knowing the sailors needed advanced care, the team scrambled to gather ventilators, surgical kits, and emergency supplies from local hospitals just hours before takeoff. Mid-flight, Mr. Murphy struck again. A hydraulic failure threatened to derail the mission, but the crew worked fast and beat it back. After a 5-hour, 1,500-mile flight over open ocean, the HC-130 arrived over the Tamar just as night fell. Far below, in darkness and heavy seas, the cargo ship appeared as a lone speck in the vast Atlantic. With no backup and no margin for error, the team jumped. 7 rescuers parachuted from just 1,400 feet, dangerously low for a night insertion. They followed 2 airdropped Zodiacs and medical supply bundles into the cold Atlantic. Once in the water, they inflated the boats, gathered the supplies, and battled 20-foot swells toward the ship. Tamar's crew lowered a rope ladder and a crane. One by one, the rescuers climbed aboard, waves hammering below. By 9:30 p.m., all 7 were on deck, soaked, freezing, but ready to save lives. The PJs immediately converted a cabin into a makeshift ICU and moved the 2 surviving burn victims, a 22-year-old Slovenian cadet and a Filipino crewman, into one space. Led by Master Sergeant Jed Smith, a PJ and civilian physician assistant, they stabilized the men and launched into non-stop care. The Slovenian's breathing worsened fast. The team intubated him and placed him on a ventilator. Hours later, the Filipino crewman's airway swelled shut. Master Sergeant Jordan St. Clair performed an emergency cricothyrotomy, slicing into his throat and inserting a breathing tube just in time to save his life. Over the next 36 hours, the team rotated in 90-minute shifts, fighting exhaustion to keep the men alive. They performed wound care, escharotomies, IV fluid resuscitation, pain management, and stayed in constant satellite contact with Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Doc Rush for medical guidance. By April 26th, the Tamar was close enough to the Azores for a Portuguese Air Force Merlin helicopter to attempt a rescue. But with no helipad and the patients trapped 3 stories above deck, extraction would be anything but easy. Master Sergeant Brian Delir rigged a pulley system to lower each stretchered patient safely to the main deck. From there, the Portuguese helicopter hoisted both patients and 3 PJs, Major Marty Vieira, Master Sergeant Jed Smith, and Staff Sergeant Michael Hartman aboard. The Merlin crew, impressed by the PJ's life-saving work, kept them on board to continue care during the flight to Ponta Delgada Hospital. 4 PJs remained aboard Tamar: Major Edward Bowell, Master Sergeant St. Clair, Senior Master Sergeant Eric Bloom, and Master Sergeant Dallaire. With the mission nearly complete, Mr. Murphy took one last shot. As a tugboat arrived to extract them, a rogue wave snapped the rope ladder. With no other way off, the PJs timed the crashing swells and leapt one by one onto the tug's surging deck, a final risky move at the end of a daring mission. By April 29th, the entire 106th team had returned to Long Island. The Tamar incident had claimed 2 lives, one at the explosion and one before help arrived. But against all odds, 2 others were pulled back from the edge. The Tamar rescue became a case study in long-range maritime search and rescue. On May 21, 2017, Slovenian President Borut Pahor awarded the 106th rescuers the Medal for Merit in the military field. In 2022, the 7 primary rescuers were each awarded the Air Force Commendation Medal for Heroism. A painting now hangs commemorating that night, parachutes descending over a lone, battered ship, a lasting tribute to courage, skill, and quiet heroism. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. If this story moved you, drop a like and tell us what stood out most in the comments below. Was it the jump into darkness? The battlefield medicine at sea? Or the fact that every one of these men volunteered? One thing's clear. This wasn't just a rescue mission. It was a reminder of what quiet heroism looks like. No headlines, no spotlight, just 7 Americans answering a call that no one else could. Special thanks to the 106th Rescue Wing, the New York Air National Guard, and the Portuguese Air Force for proving that courage knows no borders. To learn more, check out the full mission breakdowns in the description. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more stories like this one. This unprecedented all-volunteer rescue reminded the world why PJs live by one motto: that others may live.